Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. I am Megan Morensky and today I'm going to tell you what you need to do to finally get that look you've always wanted. How do we get toned? Quote unquote toned. Okay, so that word gets thrown around the fitness industry a lot and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to get that look you've always wanted. First off, let's cover what does this mean? If you're toned, what does that actually mean? Typically, people mean that, or are referring to the look where you've got a good balance between the amount of body fat you're holding and the amount of muscularity you have. Okay, so it's muscle tissue. There's a good balance between them both. So it's lean, but not overly muscular. You don't have that quote unquote bulky look. Just for my females out there, for you to get bulky, it's very, very difficult. You're not going to get bulky from doing 2 workouts a week, okay? So if you are skeptical about getting a bulky kind of look, please ditch that right now because it's not possible. I strength train, 5-6 days a week, and I am not bulky. So to get bulky, that's a whole other episode that maybe I'll cover in a later episode. But today we're talking about how you get toned, okay? So that's that nice, lean, but not overly muscular look. Essentially, you look healthy, you look fit. It's a good balance between them both. So depending on where you're at just now, depending on your starting point, depending how many years you've been training, you may need to enter different phases. So what I mean by that is if you are someone who needs to lose body fat, maybe that's where you start. You go into a fat loss phase first, then you go into muscle building phase, or vice versa. Maybe you're someone who's already pretty skinny, or you're kind of have that skinny fat kind of look. Maybe you need to increase your muscle mass, and that's where you go into a gaining phase first. Now you may be someone in between, and you can do both. You can do something called a body recomp. You can lose body fat and increase your muscle mass at the same time. Now not everyone is fit for that, or not fit for that. It's a bad terminology, but not everyone is at a physique where they can do that, at a place in their health and fitness where they can do that. But I'm not going to talk about that today, but that's essentially what a toned look is, okay? And everyone wants that toned look, but this is what it is. It's a good balance between body fat and muscle mass, essentially. Okay, so before we get into how we do this, let's talk about common mistakes. And the common mistakes I see as a trainer and as a coach is typically people are under fueling, okay? Now, again, I typically see this more in females. However, I do have my clients who are males that came in and were under fueling. Under fueling means they're in too large of a deficit, okay? So they're eating below their calorie means, they're eating below their maintenance, they're burning more than they're consuming by too much, okay? Or they're in too long of a deficit, so they're in that dieting phase for too long. Again, someone that has been there, I did that for way too long, and I did start to lose muscle mass, and then I kind of got that skinny look. I was no longer toned, I didn't look strong, I just looked skinny. The last thing is too little protein, and this is something I see across the board, regardless of where you're at. Most of my clients will come in and they're not consuming enough protein. But this episode is not on protein, so we're not going to talk too much about that today. Moving on, cardio focus. A lot of people try achieve a toned look and they go straight to the treadmill, straight to the elliptical. They think the more lactic acid they build up in their muscles, the more of a toned look they're going to get. We know this by now that cardio does not build muscle. Yes, you are using muscles, but there's minimal stimulus. All you're essentially doing is burning calories. Now, cardio is not a bad thing. It's definitely a tool I use with my clients, but it does not drive muscle growth. To drive muscle growth, we need to strength train. Now, if you are someone that does strength train, maybe you're doing this mistake, which is you're lifting too light weights and doing higher reps. Now, again, there is a type of training that I love to do with my clients that involves light weights and high reps. But if you're someone that's sticking to the same weights that you've been doing for the past couple of years and you're not really progressing and you're just going through the motions, you're not stimulating the muscle to grow, okay? our muscles need some sort of signal to grow. And if we're not giving it that, then it's just not going to grow. And to get that toned look, to build that muscle, that's what you need. You need to stimulate the muscle to start growing it, okay? Second last thing is program hopping. I recently did an Instagram post on this. This is absolutely something I've done. I've even exercise hopped a lot. But program hopping is definitely a thing. People think that there's like a magic program that's going to get them the toned look. There's no program or diet out there that's going to get you a toned look. You need to find what works for you and stick with that over time. Okay, so to get a toned look, believe it or not, it takes time. So you want to make sure you're investing that time and you're doing the right things to get that look. Okay, so make sure when you're not jumping from program to program trying to find the next best thing. You want to make sure you've got a good enough program that's going to stimulate the muscle. You want to make sure that you're progressing over time and you're stimulating the muscle and placing different forms of stimulus on that muscle over time. So what I mean by that is our bodies are very smart. They will learn to adapt. So if you stick at the same program for too long, you may encounter a plateau. It's no longer stimulating that muscle. Okay, and this is kind of going back to the previous point, people sticking at the same exercises, the same weights, the same movements. Your body's not going to grow from that. Okay, so if it's new, it will, but over time, our body adapt to that program. Okay. Last thing is spot reducing. And again, I see this a lot. People that want a six-pack, they'll be doing crunches all day. That will not get you a six-pack. You absolutely need to be low enough body fat to show your abs. You've heard me say, or heard around the fitness industry, abs are made in the kitchen. And this is absolutely true. No matter how many crunches you do, how many bicep curls you do, you're not going to have massive biceps or a six-pack if you hold body fat. Okay, so spot reducing, it is not a thing. Okay, so being able to grow muscle in certain areas, yes, like if we want to grow our biceps, absolutely bicep curls matter, that they can do that. But if your diet isn't at a good enough point and you're still holding enough body fat, you're not going to see your biceps. Okay, so spot reducing, that does not reduce body fat. All it does is increase muscle size. Okay, so that's some of the common mistakes. There is way more out there, but I didn't want to ramble through too many, but that is definitely the ones that I see the most and the ones that you may relate to. Okay, definitely I relate to some of them. Okay, so how do we actually get toned? Okay, so let's start with the muscle mass part. So let's start with your training. Okay, so what does your training look like? You want to make sure you're following a hypertrophy style training. Now, hypertrophy is muscle building, strength training, resistance training, wherever you want to call it. But it's where your muscles are being stimulated by the movement. You want to do set amount of reps and sets to stimulate these muscles. You want to make sure you're getting stronger over time. So you're not sticking to the same amount of reps and sets, weights. You want to make sure your body, like I said, is getting different stimulus over time. It's not adapting to the exact same program, the exact same movements. Okay, so making sure you're exposing your body, exposing your muscles to different stimulus is very, very important. The next thing is you want to make sure you're fueling your body correctly. Okay, so let's start with protein. I know you're probably sick of me saying this. You're probably sick of hearing about it in the fitness industry, but it's there for a reason. We need to consume enough protein. How much is enough? Bare minimum is 0.7 grams per pound of body weight or 0.7 grams per pound of target body weight. And that is the absolute minimum you should be consuming. Okay. Ideally, I like to get my clients more up to the 1 gram per pound of body weight or target body weight. But 0.7, that is your absolute bare minimum. My recommendation is if you're in a fat loss phase, you definitely want to have that higher protein. You can even go up to the 1.2. For example, I'm around about 145 pounds right now, 144, give or take, and I'm consuming 170 grams per day. Okay. Does this require mental energy to think about? Yes, it does. However, over time it becomes habitual. I don't have to think about it anymore. You're probably sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, how does she get that much protein? This is not something I learned straight away. Okay, it's definitely something, trial and error. I learned a lot about nutrition, then I applied it, and then I tried something else, and I'm still tweaking things to this day. I still tweak, little things in my diet that help me stick to it, help me with my schedule, what feels good for my body. So just because things work for my body doesn't mean it'll work for you. However, the fundamentals are in place. We need to have at least 0.7 grams per pound of body weight of protein, okay? If you are in a fat loss phase, starting with a small caloric deficit to lean out. Okay, and I said this in my previous episode, making sure you're not going crazy with your deficits. Don't go from someone who's consuming 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day all the way down to 1,200, okay? Find your maintenance and start with a small deficit to lean out. You still want your energy to be quite high, your workouts to be pretty good, your performance to be pretty good in the gym. You don't want to be, crazy low. That's when you risk losing muscle, okay? Protein helps with the maintenance of muscle and even the growth of muscle as well, okay? If you are someone that's going into a building phase, then being at maintenance or even slightly above is good, okay? We don't need to go in these crazy bulks where we're adding thousands of calories in. In my opinion, if you're someone that's doing a dirty bulk, it's almost just giving you an excuse just to eat as much as you want and whatever you want, okay? You've got to have some level of discipline and adherence, and being methodical about things regardless of what phase you're in. It's something that I tripped up a little bit with this. It was like, I'm no longer in a dieting phase. I've got all this freedom now. I quickly learned, I was like, it's not the case. You actually have to be more on point when you're coming out of a diet than anything. For some reason, people lock in when they're trying to lose weight. But the moment they're like happy and with their weight and they've reached their goal, it's like, it can all go out the window again. So you need to make sure you've got the fundamentals in place, and making sure you're eating enough protein. Whether you're leaning out, you're in a small deficit. If you're trying to gain, you're in maintenance or a slight surplus. But you're never going to be these crazy. I'm not a fan of doing crazy bulks, crazy diets, okay? You want to be within a certain threshold, okay? Cardio is a tool. It is not what's going to drive your toned look, okay? It's absolutely a tool. First things first, you need to strength train, and you need to have enough protein in your diet, and then you need to decide where your calories are falling. Then you can use cardio as a tool, okay? This is a tool I give to my clients if I don't really want to reduce their food anymore. Then I was like, hey, should we increase steps or add 30 minutes of cardio in once or twice a week? But it's absolutely a tool. It's not going to drive your progress. If you are not strength training and your nutrition's not on a good point, cardio is not going to get you there, okay? So no matter how many calories you burn on that treadmill, if your nutrition is not there and you're not strength training, you're not going to get that toned look, okay? I know it's hard to believe. Second to last thing is recovery. Now this is again really important. All these things stem into each other. Like I tell people, training is the easy part, nutrition's a little bit more challenging, but you've also got to make sure your recovery is in a good point too. So it's managing your sleep, so getting at least 7 to 8 hours per night of good quality sleep. Managing your stress, okay, that's a huge one. And also just making sure that you're not overly stimulating your mind as well. That's something that I see a lot with people that lead busy lives, is even if their sleep's in a good point and their stress is okay, but they're mentally stimulated throughout the day, that's still stress going into our body, okay? It's just a different type of stress. So making sure you're managing all these recovery tools and you're feeling good, you're feeling energized every single day. Last thing is being consistent. And I say this to my clients a lot. Training is pretty easy once you figure out the fundamentals of it. Nutrition can be a little bit more challenging, but being consistent and showing up every day, that's the hardest part. People, for some reason, we live in a society of instant gratification. People do not like delayed gratification. They don't like that it actually requires them to show up every single day. They don't like that it's a lifestyle change. If you don't like it, then don't do it. Okay, at the end of the day, you chose this. If you want to get that toned look, it's going to require effort. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require change, and it's going to require you to be consistent. And most people don't like that. And if it means that much to you, then you'll do it. Okay? But being consistent is the hardest part. Now, the good news is it does not mean you need to be consistent 100% every single day. Okay? Being 100% every single day is unrealistic. No one is like that. Okay? If I showed up on the days that I was feeling it, I would show up once or twice a month, if that. I don't know. Maybe a little bit less. But you want to be consistent, as in you have your non-negotiables every single day that you're going to show up with. So non-negotiables include, drinking plenty of water throughout the day, being in bed at a certain time, waking up at a certain time, training at a certain time, getting your protein in. Okay, and then whatever else happens. Okay, that's just life. Okay, whatever comes at us, we just accept it. But being consistent, meaning you have the non-negotiables that you tick off every single day. That's what's going to drive results. That's what's going to get you the toned look. If you're someone that comes in and you absolutely crush a workout, and you hit your protein goal that day and you're sleeping 8 hours, and then the next day you skip the workout, you're getting takeout for every single meal, you drink like 1 glass of water and that's it, that's not going to get you a toned look. Okay, it's showing up on the days that you don't feel like doing it. It's showing up and just doing what you can and hitting those non-negotiables. You hit those non-negotiables, you're gonna get your toned look that you're after. Okay, and honestly, you're gonna hit your goals no matter what your goals are. Whether it's getting toned, whether it's getting ripped, whether it's competing, whether it's putting on size, whatever the case may be, you got to be consistent. Okay. There is other strategies I could talk about, which I do have planned for another episode, about strategies that help me to be consistent. So make sure you tune into that one. Okay, so closing thoughts. There is no toning workout or diet. So essentially there's no cheat code. Now I said this, we live in a society of instant gratification, which drives me nuts. It really does. There's no quick fix, and for some reason when we're dealing with the human body, people want that quick fix. Now, is there strategies that we can do that help us to be more efficient, that help us reach our goals? Absolutely. Things like protein powder. I mean, how great is protein powder? It's convenient, it tastes good, it's affordable, it takes out all the junk, we can have it, we can mix it with certain things. Like, protein powder is a great tool. Will that get me my results? No. It aids in my results. It helps me reach my protein goal, but it will not solely get me my results. Okay? So it's not a cheat code, it's a tool. So making sure that when you are starting out on a new goal, whether that's getting toned or increasing muscle size or whatever the case may be, remind yourself that there's no cheat code. There is fundamentals in place that you need to tick. There's non-negotiables you're going to have to tick every day, but there's no quick fix. So respect your body enough, respect your coach enough, respect your trainer, whoever you're working with, but respect yourself enough to know that there is no cheat code, and you're doing this for the long run, you're doing this for you, and you're doing this for success that's going to last a lifetime. Not, this is the phase I'm in and I'm going to try to cheat the system. Okay? If you do, you're just going to be wasting time, you're going to fall flat on your butt and you're going to have to undo a lot of progress. Okay? Second thing, I just rambled on about this, is being consistent. This is the most challenging, but it's also the most important. Okay, so making sure you have those non-negotiables in place that you tick every single day. Okay, and these don't have to be crazy things. Like I said, it's your protein intake, it's your sleep, it's your stress, it's your water. Anything out with that is almost just, it's additional. Okay, now the days that you can tick those boxes, great. But if you can get those non-negotiables, that's what matters. That's what's going to move the needle. So focus on hitting the fundamentals. Don't worry too much on all this fluff. Okay? You train hard, you eat your protein, and you sleep, and you manage your stress, you're going to be fine. Okay? So I just want to remind you that a toned look doesn't really have an actual description. It's something that we make up in our minds. Okay, we have our own ideal of what toned looks like. What I describe myself as toned will be different as what someone else would view themselves as toned. Okay, but overall, what a toned look essentially means is having that muscle mass built up and having your body fat at a certain percentage. And to get that, there's nothing wrong with that. If your goal is that, I think it's great because it's healthy, right? It really is healthy. Just don't fall into the trap of you're trying to get toned by chaining yourself to a treadmill and cutting back your calories. If you're going to take anything away from this episode, take away that, okay? Being toned means to be healthy, okay? If you are someone that needs help to getting toned, then I do offer online coaching. There's more details in the description below. Shoot me a message. I also have my application form, my Instagram bio, and also linked below. If you have any question at all, feel free to comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you guys next week.